Good morning. This is the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Wednesday, May 27th. Looking at our impacts, we have a heat wave starting to develop from the western Great Basin here on Wednesday, expanding northwards and eastwards Thursday, and by Friday covering the entire Great Basin from Idaho, Wyoming, down through Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Each of those days there'll be some isolated pop-up showers or a brief thunderstorm, a mix of wet and dry, nothing too heavy in terms of precipitation. There could be some lightning. Much of the high country here still under some snow cover or just recently emerged from snow cover. We don't expect much in the way of lightning ignition issues. Just the heat and dryness continuing to dry out the fine fuels, many of which have cured across our southern regions. Looking at past precipitation, had a light swath of it, a little overdone here. A lot of this was radar estimated that did not reach the ground. A few isolated lightning strikes here in western Nevada. New fire starts here in the red, recent fires in the yellow. The larger the circle, the larger the fire. So fire activity picking up across much of our southern and even some central and eastern areas. Precipitation the past 7 days, we did have that cold front several days ago that did produce good wetting rains covering all of Utah, much of western Wyoming, and all of Idaho, western Wyoming, northern Utah, and parts of north central Nevada. South of there, though, still bone dry. And on the right hand side, percent of normal, you can see where over the past week still 0 to less than 10% of normal precipitation in those southern areas. That's where some of our major concerns are. This happened several days ago, and the other concern is that increasing heat and dryness will quickly dry out those fine fuels once again. ERC map still a little deceiving. A lot of this green is because areas are still in green up, but areas that are just primarily grass have cured out. But some of the ERCs here in our southern eastern areas are in the 70th to 80th percentile, even some locally higher amounts of missing stations here across Moab. For our southern areas in grasses and fine fuels, the 10-hour fuels have been a very good indicator. This area in red here of 3 to 4%, an indicator where things could burn if it's primarily grass and not mixed in too much with live brush just yet. Otherwise, further north you go, the more benign it is. 100-hour fuels also below 5% here in eastern Utah, the Arizona Strip, and parts of southern Nevada. 1,000-hour fuels dried out quite a bit, single digits in these golden shade areas here, still quite moist further north. Satellite imagery shows high pressure now starting to build across California. It will continue building northward and eastwards over the next few days, but inside of it still traps some mid-level moisture to upper-level moisture, so we could see some isolated showers, maybe a little bit of lightning in some of these areas of enhanced clouds, but the overall coverage will be quite small. So for the later this afternoon on the map, there is that high pressure ridge building in. There is some of that trapped moisture through here. Could be some isolated showers underneath there. The humidity there is still a little bit higher because of the cloud cover. You can see here on the 7-day map on the right, the green areas indicating where, even though it's been pretty warm and dry the last 2 days, still the effects of the lingering rainfall that we had several days ago. In the brown areas to the south, areas that pretty much missed out on most of that precipitation. Deep green up north where they got the bulk of it. Temperature-wise, 90s here across the western Great Basin, 106 in Vegas, upper 80s across southern and western Utah. Humidity levels, you can see them dropping down to the single digits to low teens in many of our southern areas. Now on Thursday, you can see that arc of that high pressure starts to shift a little further eastwards. That'll take the heat eastwards also. You can see some of the PSAs that were green starting to transition to yellow, still quite dry in the south. And you can see these temperatures, 90 degrees now expanding towards Salt Lake City, 93 in Elko, upper 90s in Reno, 108 to 112 down in southern Nevada, 91 in Moab. You can see even 90 degrees in Boise, so that heat is continuing to expand. You can see humidity levels in the single digits to low teens across many areas. And then on Friday, that arc of high pressure continues to shift further eastwards. A pretty deep low pressure area approaching the central California coast. The tight height packing of these yellow lines indicates increasing winds coming out of the south. And that'll be an issue. See, our dryness continues to expand. We'll be in our 3rd or 4th day of the heat wave. You can see those humidity here on the right-hand side, humidity levels single digits to low teens in many of those areas. On the left-hand side, we have peak winds. Notice that With that storm system off the California coast, some of those winds in the dark green and orange, winds gusting into the mid to upper 20 mile per hour range. Not critical, but after a couple of days of hot, dry conditions, there could be some concerns if any ignitions occur in these windy areas, if there's a good field of fine fuels for it, otherwise light and variable winds. 3-day precipitation totals just some isolated amounts wherever we might see those thunderstorms, a bit more across northern California. Now we go into Saturday. Now notice that the low lifts out into Oregon. It doesn't really push inland. It lifts northward, so kind of dry still through here. We do have a risk of winds and low humidity on Saturday. Then this could be quite significant from the southern half of Nevada, basically south of the I-80 corridor, into parts of western Utah with a tight height packing here, these stronger upper level winds. We'll take a quick look here, and you can see these winds in the purple shades, gusts close to 40 miles per hour. In the orange shades, probably gusting in the upper 20s to mid 30s. So a wide area of wind, and that's after several days of very hot and dry conditions. Humidity levels 10% or lower in many of these areas, so a big concern on Saturday. On Sunday, we notice some moisture being pulled in along with those winds. We still have high risk for winds, a smaller area, parts of Nevada and adjacent Utah. The further east you go, the drier the air will be. And then on Monday, a trough of low pressure starts carving out, still tapping some subtropical moisture. We still have a concern for winds further east. The further east you go, the drier the surface air will be. And then Tuesday, the moisture really starts filling in. This isn't quite the monsoon. This is due to low pressure through here, but it's tapping subtropical moisture, which is the source of fuel for the thunderstorms in the monsoon season. So we could see overall rains increasing from Arizona into parts of Utah, also northern Nevada, and that should start taking the edge off a little bit. See some of that precipitation increasing as we go later in the 7-day period, coverage-wise. Initially not too heavy, maybe just a couple hundredths or a tenth of an inch, except higher amounts in the higher terrain. 8 to 14-day outlook, June 3rd through June 9th, a shift to cooler temperature, especially across the northern and western portions of the Great Basin. The heat shifts further towards the country's midsection, a wetter than normal signal. So we'll have occasional low pressure areas pulling up some of that subtropical moisture out of Mexico. So we could see a brief relief spell in terms of some higher humidity and some showers, hopefully for the first week of June. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.